All right, so hello, KMS. How are you today? Right now, I'm with Dr. Haring, one of our seventh grade language arts teachers,
Hi,
and
everyone.
we're going to talk about what she's been reading during quarantine. Were you at school during locker cleanout time?
I was there both Tuesday and Wednesday for more than my time period, both of those days. Yeah,
It was good to see some of the kids, though, huh?
it was. It was. I didn't see as many as I'd hoped, but it was good to have some chats. Yeah.
All right, so what have you been reading during quarantine time?
Oh my gosh, I've been reading so much. I even have them here, and I've been reading lots of different kinds of things. So, a book that I found under my bed that I think I checked out last year was Summer and Bird. So it is a crazy kind of realistic book with some fantasy parts, definite fantasy parts built in, like with people turning into birds and talking to birds and other animals and things. And I started reading it because it was written by Catherine Catmull, and her brother is a musician from Missoula that I'm friends with and really like. And he told me that his sister was an author. So I found this book and I will return it someday.
That's great. I'll expect to see it by fall.
Yes, yes, it will be there. And
Okay.
another book I read recently is by Jason Reynolds. Jason, I think I finished it last week. Jason Reynolds writes, he's a really, really prolific, well-known writer now. It's called As Brave as You. And
I think we have that one in the library too.
yeah, often his books take place in urban settings. And this one is two brothers from Brooklyn who go to somewhere really rural, North Carolina, I think, to spend time with their grandparents while their parents go to Jamaica. And it's about these two city boys having these adventures out in the country, and it was its narrator you really liked because he was funny and self-deprecating, and he talked a lot about stuff that happens with brothers, and especially when your brother's getting older and you're still kind of the young one. So that was a really good one. Another one, oh, totally different kind of book that I found, Charles and Emma.
Oh, what do you think of that one?
I loved this book. Oh, I loved it so much. So most of you, KMS, have heard of Charles Darwin. He's the guy, the scientist from Britain who came up with the theory of evolution. But this is a biography that it talks about that, of course, but it's really more about his family life, his relationship with his wife, and his relationship with his children. And this how he develops his theories is worked up in here, but it's just a really enjoyable read where you get to know the man behind the scientific theory. Thoroughly loved it, and it's won, as you can see, a ton of awards. So yeah, I don't know if the library.
We have that one too in the library.
It's so good. I really enjoyed that
one.
Yeah, and then another book that I don't recommend for a middle school audience. It's from one of my book clubs, Denise Mina, I think, Conviction. So it's like a crime novel. And it had a lot of interesting twists. And honestly, there was so much of it that took place in beautiful places like Paris and little islands in the Mediterranean and Venice. I thought it was like a tax write-off book where she just wanted to go to all these places. So she included them in her book so she could like write off all those travel expenses. That may be a strange thing, but I heard James Welch talk about doing that once. So anyway, I'm not a big crime novel person. I guess as those things go, this was fine. It wasn't my favorite. It was a quick read. Not a quick read is Strategies That Work.
That doesn't look like light quarantine fun reading.
Look at all my notes. Yeah. I'm teaching a class starting in the summer on reading Native American texts in a K-12 classroom. So I'm
Mm.
preparing for that in my in my free time. So I wanted to read an elementary reading strategies book, which is this, and I've tried one for upper grades that I really, because I have to assign books to these college students in addition to the Native American texts we're going to read, because we're supposed to focus on strategies, reading strategies.
Right. All right.
And then, okay, my latest super favorite. Have you heard of this, Mrs. Mornell?
No,
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I will drop it off at school so that you can
please
borrow.
do.
So Richard Fifield grew up in Troy, Montana,
Oh,
and his
wow.
oh my gosh, and he has an adult book called The Flood Girls, which
Mhm.
was excellent. This is a young adult focus, The Small Crimes of Tiffany Templeton.
Write this down.
It just came out like right before quarantine, and I'm in charge of part of the MFPE conference planning, and he was recommended to me as an author to come to be our keynote speaker. So I ordered both of his books from Amazon, loved them, contacted him. He's hilarious. Oh my gosh, he's hilarious. He's a man, but he really has this edgy young girl kind of persona down. You believe that Tiffany Templeton is who she is, and her small crimes really were small crimes, but she got into big trouble and had to go to a detention center called Dogwood. And then she comes home, and she really hasn't been completely forgiven by her community. But throughout the story, you get what's going on right now, and then she flashes back to those crimes that got her in trouble, and then and you just end up just really loving Tiffany, and you want things to work out for her, and you're rooting for her the whole time. Just fantastic book. Really enjoyed this. So yeah,
Does he still live in Montana?
he lives in Missoula now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Nice.
and he teaches. He mostly does social work from what his bio and stuff says, but he teaches a memoir class for, I
Ooh.
think, for like victims of domestic abuse and things, or anyway. And he has a really great shirt on in his author picture.
Very cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess I've been reading kind of a lot.
You really have. I thought I
Yeah.
was going to get a ton of reading done, and those first couple weeks I did, but it's definitely
Hmm.
off. I haven't done as much, but
Yeah. For one thing, uh, screen brain. My eyes get so tired. I,
yeah, for sure.
yeah. I'll have to start baking
So
more banana bread, I guess. Yeah.
that was one of the things I saw. I saw that like the quarantine level, like, TV and reading, baking banana bread, dyeing own hair.
I know.
I
Oh no.
did the dye your own hair already. So,
Awesome.
um,
Yeah.
so were you always a reader growing up?
I was. I really was. When I was little, I went to a rural school, a K through 8 school that didn't even have 200 kids in the whole school, K through 8. When I was really young, like kindergarten, first grade, second grade, I think, the library was in the nurse's office. And our
Oh
nurse's
no!
office was smaller than the KMS nurse's office. So the nurse would be in
Oh,
there, and then there were bookshelves. And I loved going in there because there were so many books everywhere. And then our next library was a trailer, like a
oh,
temporary classroom trailer. And the fiction was on one half of the trailer, and the nonfiction was on the other half of the trailer. And I remember those books that you probably remember. Like, I read through all of the Little House on the Prairie books when I was,
right. Yeah.
really second grade or something. And at the time, there was the show, so it made you feel like you were in the know because I've read about this, or this is so not like the books. So I was snotty about books even then. And then I read all of the Nancy Drew books, And then I moved on and read all of the Hardy Boys books.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I never got into Hardy Boys, but I did read all the Nancy Drew.
Yeah, because young adult books, like we know them, really didn't exist. They really didn't start until about 83 or so.
It's very true.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
realize what a golden age they are in for
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
young adult
Yeah.
publishing. Oh my gosh. So cool.
And then alarmingly, in middle school, I think is sixth, maybe fifth. I started reading a lot of science fiction and fantasy. And then I went through a Stephen King period, for goodness sakes. In middle school. I won't read him now. I think he's a great writer, but I don't like to be scared. So life is scary enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My brother was always into him, so we always had him at home. So I read him.
Right.
Probably
Same.
8th, 9th grade when I started.
Yep. Yeah. Same. It was my brother who had the Stephen King books. And yeah.
That is great.
Go
ahead.
Oh, I have a great Stephen King story. When I was in, I think it was 8th grade, we, so I was with the same group of like 35 kids, K through 8. And boy, oh boy, did we know each other. And one time we were grading, I think, a social studies. It was definitely a social studies assignment. And she would go around the room and get kids to answer the questions. And you're grading someone else's. Well, I already knew all the answers, so I had already graded the one that I was supposed to be grading. So I had it all set. I'd figured out the percentage and all of that. I was that person. And then I was reading. I mean, I still had it out. I would still like look up sometimes and act like I was paying attention, but I was reading. And then instead of going around, she jumped to me to ask me, like, what's number 6? And I was at this really like scary, gory part. And just a minute. And then I realized, oh my God, what did I just do? And Iowa.
Do you remember what Stephen King book it was?
I don't. Yeah, I don't remember. Anyway, but yeah, Stephen King got me in trouble in 8th grade.
He's definitely been through a resurgence with all the movies and TV shows based on his stuff. And then, of course, when this all started, they made a miniseries off The Stand. Did you read that?
I did. Yeah.
And the miniseries, which is very cheesy and horrible, but it was on sale for digital for $5. So I bought it and watched it again.
Oh my gosh.
Because it was hitting way too close to home.
I can imagine. Ooh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, good stuff.
Yeah.
Any other middle school memories reading?
I remember when I was in that science fiction and fantasy kind of, there was this boy that I liked, but I would never admit that I liked. And our thing was that we would get our science fiction or our fantasy books and we would trade them. And then we would write notes to each other about them. And we felt very cool. Yeah.
That's a good way to connect with a person. Right. Very good. Very good.
His name was Jeff, and he was very cute. He had blonde hair and a silly little turned up nose. Yeah.
But he liked to read.
And he liked to read.
Yeah, that's a plus. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, and to see you soon. I don't see you, and I hope the kids get to see you soon too.
Okay. I miss you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
bye.
Bye.